"Get your filthy hands off that purse. People like you come to steal, not shop." The words cut through the boutique's polished air like glass breaking. The store manager, red in the face with false authority, loomed over a frail black woman dressed in a simple cardigan and sensible shoes. She had been holding a luxury handbag with quiet appreciation, her fingers brushing the leather like it was art in a gallery. The silence shattered a second later. His palm cracked across her cheek, the sound louder than the boutique's faint jazz music. Her body staggered backward, colliding with a crystal display that rattled dangerously. The bag slipped from her hands, hitting the marble floor with a thud. A scattering of her belongings followed. A worn wallet, a folded boarding pass, business cards that slid beneath silk scarves. The bright floor now bore evidence of someone's life spilled open for strangers to judge. Gasps filled the air, sharp and uneven. A woman clutched her pearls as though she'd just witnessed a crime. And she had. Teenagers instinctively raised their phones, shaky hands capturing every second for their followers. Others froze, mouths open, unsure if they should intervene or stay silent. 20 sets of eyes locked on the trembling figure, her cheek already reddening under the sting of humiliation. The manager's chest rose with pride, as if he had just defended the store from danger. "Worthless thief," he muttered, kicking one of her items across the floor. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The bright lights above hummed. Security cameras blinked red. Phones tilted higher, live streams already ticking upward with viewers. Yet the woman did not cry out. She did not raise her voice. Instead, she reached slowly, her hand brushing her lip where blood began to bloom. She studied the crimson on her fingers, then looked straight at the man who had struck her. Her voice came calm, steady, almost chilling in its composure. "Are you sure?" she asked, each word cutting through the marble hall like steel. "You want to do this?" The boutique fell into a silence so heavy it was suffocating. Even the manager's confidence faltered just for a breath. And in that breath, the story that would unravel his career and rewrite an industry had already begun. "Oh my God, you guys, are you seeing this?" 17-year-old Mia Torres had been live on Instagram, walking her followers through a casual makeup hall, when her camera jolted toward the commotion across the boutique. The frame shifted from lipstick swatches to something far more electrifying, the aftermath of a slap that had cracked the air like thunder. At first, only a handful of her regular viewers watched. 20 hearts pulsed in the corner of her screen. Then came the comments. "Wait, did he just hit her? No way, keep recording." The number ticked upward, 37. 64, 121. As Mia zoomed in on the trembling woman bent over the marble floor, gathering the pieces of her life one item at a time, within 60 seconds. Her viewership rocketed past 2,000. The chat exploded. "You store racism" trended in real time, followed by "Q Justice Now." Angry emojis poured in, drowning out her usual pastel-colored hearts. In the store, reality split in two. The hushed terror of those physically present, and the loud, unfiltered outrage of thousands online. A college student whispered near the handbags. She was obviously trying to steal. "Did you see how she held that bag?" His friend nodded, too eager to agree. "Yeah, they always do that." Their words, casual and careless, carried farther than they intended. Others shook their heads, pressing phones higher to record every second. A mother with a stroller muttered, "That poor woman. She didn't do anything." Her voice trembled with anger, though she stayed rooted to the spot, unsure whether to help or to watch history unfold through glass screens. Meanwhile, the elderly woman remained almost eerily calm. She reached for a watch that had slid beneath a rack of scarves, brushing away a thin trail of dust as though it mattered. A business card, Washington Holdings, caught on her sleeve before she tucked it neatly back into her cardigan pocket. Her fingers found a folded boarding pass next, the gold lettering reading "First Class." She slipped it into her purse with deliberate care. Then came the black American Express card. It had landed face up on the marble floor, obsidian gleam impossible to miss. Gasps rippled as she picked it up, brushing it clean before sliding it back into her wallet. Several shoppers blinked, recognizing it instantly. A few whispered, "That's a Centurion card, no limit. Invitation only." On Mia's screen, comments screamed, "Did she just pick up a black card? This is not what it looks like, y'all. Watch closely." Viewer count spiked again, 7,500, 9,300, then over 10,000. The digital wildfire had begun. In the boutique, the manager folded his arms as if the live stream didn't matter. But the glow of dozens of phones made it clear he wasn't just facing a single woman anymore. He was facing the entire internet. And the internet was hungry for justice. Right, the assistant manager sneered, plucking the black card from the woman's hand as if she were handling contraband. Like you could afford anything in here. This is probably stolen too. She tilted it for the crowd to see, smirking as though her performance deserved applause. A murmur spread through the boutique. Some customers craned their necks, trying to catch the details etched on the metal. Others looked away, embarrassed by the hostility but unwilling to step forward. One woman whispered, "That's a Centurion card. You don't just find those." Her husband shook his head quickly, muttering, "Don't get involved." On the floor, scattered papers caught the light. A boarding pass, first class, gold letters embossed with the words "Private Jet Service," lay visible long enough for multiple cameras to capture it. A business card slid out from beneath a scarf. Washington Holdings, Real Estate Development. Phones zoomed in, lenses focusing like predators on prey. Meanwhile, her own phone buzzed across the marble, its screen flashing a string of missed calls. Goldman Sachs Private Banking. The names glowed unmistakably, too clear to ignore. The assistant manager's laughter wavered, but she forced it louder, desperate to drown out the evidence at her feet. "Please, do you really think someone like her is on a first-name basis with a bank like that?" The audience split down in visible lines. A woman near the register muttered under her breath, "I knew she didn't belong here the second I saw her." Another scoffed back, "You're blind if you can't see the proof. Look at the ticket, the business cards. This isn't some scam artist." On Mia's live stream, the comments screamed in every direction. "She's a billionaire in disguise. Just watch." "Nah, she's a faker. No way she owns that card. Call Goldman Sachs, it's right there on her screen." The manager's digging his own grave. "This is crazy." The viewer count leapt again, 15,000, 18,500, then over 20,000. The video spread like gasoline on an open flame, and through it all, the elderly woman said nothing. She didn't plead, didn't argue, didn't even demand her card back. She simply knelt, gathering her items with quiet precision. Her movements were slow, deliberate, the opposite of the chaos buzzing around her. Every time she slipped another belonging into her bag, the weight of doubt shifted just a little more onto the staff. Her silence became its own weapon. Every second she refused to explain herself, the assumptions of the employees and the crowd grew heavier. They revealed themselves, not her. Prejudice, arrogance, and fear laid bare for the cameras. By the time she stood again, her lip still swollen, her belongings once more in hand, the room felt unsteady. Was she the thief they claimed, or the most powerful person in the building? The question hung in the air unanswered, and that silence, recorded live for tens of thousands, was louder than anything she could have said. The double doors at the back of the boutique banged open, heels striking marble like gunshots. Rachel Myers, the store director, strode into the chaos, her face already flushed with anger. "What on earth is happening in my store?" Her eyes swept the scene. Handbags scattered, customers with phones raised, a trembling older woman holding her cheek, and her manager standing tall like a conquering hero. Marcus Webb straightened at once, eager to seize control before the narrative slipped further. "Caught this one trying to steal," he announced, pointing at the elderly woman as if she were contraband. "Had to put her in her place." His voice carried the kind of confidence built on arrogance. But for the first time since the slap, a thread of unease wove through his tone. The director frowned, her gaze flicking to the dozens of glowing screens recording her every move. She knew how fast social media could turn careers into rubble. Still, she forced authority into her voice. "Is that true?" she demanded. The woman did not defend herself. Instead, she reached calmly into her pocket, withdrew her phone, and pressed a single button. Her voice was soft but steady. "Let's see if my colleagues agree." The speakerphone rang once before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Mrs. Washington, are you on your way? The Goldman Sachs board is waiting for you." The boutique fell into a silence so complete that even the hum of the lights seemed to fade. Dozens of heads snapped toward her. Webb's smirk froze mid-expression, his mouth hanging open just enough to betray the crack in his confidence. The director blinked rapidly, as though her brain needed a moment to align reality with what she'd just heard. Customers stared, whispering into one another's ears. Did she say board meeting? Goldman Sachs? That's not a prank call. She's not who they think she is. The air shifted. The balance of power tilting like a scale no one had realized was uneven until now. On Mia's live stream, comments flooded so fast they blurred into a waterfall. Bro, she's connected. WTF. That was Goldman Sachs. I swear. This is bigger than retail, y'all. Manager's done. Pack it up. The counter surged past 30,000 viewers, numbers climbing like stock prices during a bull run. The internet had scented blood. The woman ended the call without further explanation. She didn't boast, didn't wave her phone around for proof. She simply slid it back into her bag, her face serene. That serenity unnerved Webb more than any raised voice ever could. His certainty crumbled. He muttered, "She's faking. These people pull stunts all the time." But his words rang hollow even to his own ears. The customers weren't looking at her like a thief anymore. They were studying her the way one studies someone important, someone untouchable. The tide had turned, and the first whispers spread through the boutique like smoke before a fire. She isn't who they think she is. The assistant manager's smirk had curdled into something else entirely. Her fingers still gripped the black card, but the bravado had drained from her voice. This can't be real," she whispered, staring at the weight of it as though it might burn her hand. Her knuckles whitened against the metal, trembling for the first time. All around her, phones hovered like watchful eyes, recording every bead of sweat, every flicker of panic. The boutique had become a courtroom, and the jury wasn't just the 20 customers inside, it was the tens of thousands watching online. The evidence lay scattered across the marble. A boarding pass, stamped first-class private jet service, business cards embossed with Washington Holdings, and now, the Centurion card she refused to give back. The silence cracked when a voice cut through with calm precision. "That card isn't stolen." Heads turned toward the entrance where a man in a tailored gray suit stepped forward, his phone recording as steadily as his voice. He adjusted his glasses, eyes sweeping the scene with clinical calculation. "She's not a thief. She's the owner," Mia gasped from behind her screen. "Dad!" Robert Torres nodded slightly to his daughter before focusing again on the woman at the center of the storm. His words carried the weight of someone used to numbers, portfolios, and boardrooms. "I've seen Centurion cards before. Only the ultra-wealthy hold them. Net worth requirements exceed 16 million. Combine that with her banking calls and business cards." He gestured toward the evidence at their feet. "You just assaulted someone who owns more than you'll ever touch." Gasps rippled through the boutique. Customers who had muttered agreement with Webb earlier shifted uneasily, their words suddenly poisonous under the glare of 50 cameras. One woman quietly slipped her phone from her purse, angling it away from her own face as if she could erase her earlier comments. The assistant manager shook her head, still clinging to denial. "No, she's just acting. They train people to look important, to fool stores like ours." But her voice cracked mid-sentence, betraying her doubt. The crowd didn't believe her anymore. Neither did the live stream where comments streamed past at lightning speed. Financial analyst Dad just exposed them. Owner, manager. The story just flipped. 45K watching. This is history. The viewer count surged past 45,000, climbing higher every second. Each ding of a new viewer felt like a hammer driving nails into the coffin of Premier Fashion's credibility. And through it all, the elderly woman remained still, her calm composure now transformed into something formidable. She didn't need to argue. The employees had already dismantled their own authority with every cruel word, every wrong assumption. The hierarchy that once seemed untouchable, manager barking orders, assistant sneering in support, director pretending control, crumbled under the weight of truth. The boutique no longer belonged to them. It belonged to the woman they had tried to humiliate, and to the thousands of unseen witnesses who now knew the truth. The boutique's glass doors swung open with a force that made the chandeliers tremble. 2 NYPD officers stepped inside, scanning the scene with the practiced eyes of men who had walked into too many confrontations. The taller one, Sergeant Alvarez, immediately noticed the details: the swelling across the elderly woman's cheek, the dried smear of blood at the corner of her lip, the cluster of phones raised like weapons of testimony. His partner, Officer Rivera, kept a hand near his belt, already anticipating the excuses that were about to come. Before either officer spoke, Marcus Webb surged forward, desperate to control the narrative. "Officers, thank God you're here," he said, puffing his chest like a man defending his honor. "It's a misunderstanding, just a customer service issue blown out of proportion. She was attempting to shoplift. We had to intervene." A ripple of disbelief traveled through the crowd. Several customers shook their heads. Phones tilted to catch his words, every syllable broadcast to tens of thousands online. The live stream counter surged. 58,000, 59,200, 60,000. The internet was watching, waiting for justice. The elderly woman stepped forward slowly, steadying herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had spent decades refusing to be rattled. Her voice was calm but carried the authority of truth. "Officers, I am Dorothy Washington. This man struck me across the face without provocation." She gestured to her cheek, the bruise darkening beneath the boutique's polished lights. "I am also a primary investor in this company. I came here as a customer, not a thief." Her words dropped into the room like stones into still water, sending ripples through every corner. Phones caught every angle of her steady gaze. Webb sputtered, "She's lying." "They all say things like that." But Sergeant Alvarez raised his hand sharply. "Enough!" the officer snapped, his voice sharp with command. He turned to Dorothy, his tone softening. "Ma'am, do you require medical attention?" "No, Sergeant." "What I require," she replied, her eyes sliding back toward Webb, "is accountability." Alvarez nodded once before facing the store manager again. "Sir, this is a criminal matter, not corporate policy. Assault isn't handled behind a counter, it's handled in court." The words carried like a verdict. Webb's mouth opened, then closed, the confidence he'd carried evaporating into sweat across his brow. The assistant manager shrank behind him, still clutching the card she had mocked only minutes before. Through the boutique's tall windows, movement flickered. A white van pulled up, its logo unmistakable, Channel 7 News. Behind it, another, then another. Tripods unfolded on the sidewalk, reporters already prepping scripts, phones pressed to their ears. The story had slipped fully out of the boutique's walls and into the bloodstream of the city. On Mia's live stream, the comments flew faster than she could read. "Police on scene, justice time. Corporate excuses won't save him now. 60K live, major networks pulling up. This is over." Inside, Dorothy folded her hands in front of her, composed as ever. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to argue. The law, the cameras, and the truth were all on her side now. And for the first time, Marcus Webb seemed to understand. His empire of arrogance was collapsing in real time. The boutique's glass doors burst open again, this time with even more force than the police arrival. A man in a tailored navy suit charged inside, flanked by two assistants juggling tablets and phones. His presence was unmistakable. The air seemed to bend around him as conversations fell silent. Nathaniel Crane, CEO of Premier Fashion International, had arrived. His expression was thunder, his pace a storm. What in God's name is going on here? He barked, scanning the chaos. A bruised elderly woman standing tall, police officers stationed near the counter, employees pale and shrinking, and 50 phones capturing every second. One of his assistants leaned close, whispering, "The live stream's at 68,000 and climbing. Sir, Twitter's trending with 3 hashtags. Stock is already down 4 points." Crane's jaw clenched so hard the muscles twitched. He turned toward the glowing phones, eyes narrowing at the relentless gaze of the digital crowd. The entire internet was inside his store, and they were watching him fail in real time. Dorothy Washington didn't move as he approached. Her cardigan hung loosely over her shoulders, her lip still marked by Webb's slap, but her eyes were sharp and unyielding. She spoke with the quiet precision of someone used to commanding rooms far larger than this. "Mr. Crane, your manager struck me, accused me falsely of theft, and your staff humiliated me in front of your customers and tens of thousands online. That," she said, nodding toward the police officers, "is already a criminal matter. But what happens next will be remembered as either your company's downfall or its reckoning. Her voice was steady. Each word carved itself into the marble floor like an engraving. The boutique had never heard such composure wrapped in such quiet fire. Crane's gaze snapped to Webb, who stammered immediately. She was stealing, sir. She had a card that didn't belong to her. His words faltered under the weight of Dorothy's silence. Her evidence gathered neatly in her purse, and the disbelief etched across every customer's face. You hit her? Crane's voice was a low growl. Webb hesitated too long. That silence condemned him more than any confession could. The assistant manager tried to speak, but her voice cracked. We thought. She stopped herself, realizing that her words were daggers aimed straight at her own chest. Around them, cameras recorded the collapse of credibility at every level of leadership. Customers whispered, "If the CEO doesn't fix this, the brand is finished." Online, the comments surged. 69K watching. This is corporate suicide. Leadership failed from the top down. He better do more than apologize. Crane rubbed his temples, realizing too late that the empire he'd built on exclusivity and prestige was crumbling under the weight of arrogance and prejudice. Stock alerts pinged on his assistant's tablet. Another drop. Investors were already pulling away. Then Dorothy drew a breath, lifting her chin ever so slightly. The room seemed to still in anticipation. "You want to know what happens next?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. "Then listen carefully. I have conditions." The hook landed like a gavel in a courtroom. Every phone tilted forward. Every breath held. The live stream surged past 70,000. And for the first time in his career, Nathaniel Crane wasn't the man giving orders. He was the man waiting to hear them. Dorothy adjusted the strap of her cardigan, her movements deliberate, measured, as if the chaos around her didn't exist. Phones hovered like hungry satellites, catching every syllable. The police officers stood watchful but silent, sensing that what was unfolding was no longer just law enforcement. It was history. Her voice cut cleanly through the boutique's tension. "Here are my terms." The store director gasped quietly, but Dorothy didn't look her way. She had the entire room tethered to her words. First, Marcus Webb, Karen Phillips, and Rachel Morrison terminated immediately. No severance, no positive references, permanent blacklisting from retail management. Her gaze swept across their ashen faces, the gravity of their ruined careers settling in. Whispers rippled through the customers. Someone near the door muttered, "That's justice." The livestream chat lit up with an avalanche of yes, fire them, accountability. Dorothy continued, her tone calm but edged with iron. Second, a corporate apology. Not vague, not evasive. Your company will acknowledge that racism and prejudice led to an unprovoked assault in this store. The apology must be public, direct, and specific. No hiding behind the word incident. Call it what it is. The assistant beside the CEO scribbled notes frantically, his tablet filling with Dorothy's words as though they were law. The live stream comment feed agreed. Say it with your chest. No more PR fluff. Name the racism. Third, Dorothy lifted her chin slightly. Bias training for every employee at every location. Mandatory. Quarterly refreshers. Failure to complete results in automatic termination. Ignorance will no longer be tolerated as an excuse for cruelty. A murmur of agreement swept through the customers. Phones tilted closer. The live stream ticked upward. 76,000, 78, 80,000. Fourth, Dorothy's tone deepened, carrying the weight of decades of boardroom negotiations. Leadership must reflect the customers you serve. Within 18 months, at least 40% of your management positions must be held by qualified minority candidates. Monthly progress reports delivered directly to me and my office. The assistant manager whimpered audibly, realizing what that meant for people like her. Online, the flood of comments surged louder. Representation matters. Finally, change with teeth. This woman is rewriting the industry on camera. Dorothy's final words landed with the precision of a judge's verdict. Fifth, a public restitution fund. $5 million annually, dedicated to civil rights organizations focused on retail discrimination. Call it the Customer Dignity Fund. Let the world see that your company is capable of more than empty apologies. Let them see you invest in real change. The boutique was silent except for the buzzing of notifications, the hiss of cameras recording, and the relentless flood of live stream comments. Yes, yes, yes. Dorothy folded her hands in front of her, her composure never breaking. Comply fully or face liquidation. Choose quickly. The world is watching. The CEO stood frozen, sweat at his temples, his empire teetering on the edge. Around him, 80,000 voices in the live stream screamed in unison, accountability. Dorothy slid a worn leather portfolio from her bag and placed it gently on the glass counter, right beside the faint bloodstains that still marked her lip. The boutique fell into a hush so deep that the hum of the air conditioning sounded like a roar. Phones in every direction zoomed in, ready to broadcast whatever came next to nearly 90,000 live viewers. She opened the portfolio with unhurried grace, flipping past travel papers and neat folders until a set of embossed documents caught the light. Gold seals shimmered under the boutique chandeliers. For those still uncertain, she said evenly, allow me to clarify. Her voice wasn't raised, but it carried with the authority of someone who had been listened to her entire life. This, she tapped the top page, is proof of Washington Holdings' controlling interest in Lux Retail Group, the parent company of this store. 67% equity, which means… She closed the folder halfway and looked straight at Marcus Webb, still pale, still handcuffed. When you struck me, Mr. Webb, you weren't assaulting a shoplifter. You were assaulting your employer, more precisely, the woman who owns this building, your paychecks, and your future. The silence that followed was crushing. Not even a whisper moved through the boutique. Every shopper, every staff member, every police officer froze, caught between disbelief and dawning comprehension. The store director, Rachel Morrison, staggered back a step, her phone slipping from her trembling hands and clattering to the marble floor with a sharp crack. One customer gasped, "She owns the company." Another, bolder, whispered, "We just watched a billionaire get slapped in her own store." On the live stream, the comment section erupted so fast it blurred into unreadable streaks. "Wait, she's the boss. OMG, she owns them. All of them. Biggest corporate fail in history unfolding live." Webb's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, the last fragments of arrogance dissolving into raw panic. The assistant manager clutched the counter for support, her earlier sneers replaced by wide-eyed terror. Dorothy calmly slid another paper forward. "Mortgage holdings, pension funds, operating loans, all under my control. For 3 years I've financed your expansion. Today I've also witnessed your culture. This," she gestured to the bruise still blooming on her cheek, "is how your management treats its own owner when they believe she's powerless." Morrison swayed visibly, her face drained of color before collapsing against a chair. A sales associate rushed to steady her. Someone whispered, "She's going to faint." Phones caught every angle, every shocked expression. The livestream viewer count ticked over 90,000. Dorothy gathered the papers back into her portfolio with quiet precision, as though the revelation were nothing extraordinary. "Now you understand," she said, her voice colder than before, "why this is no longer about customer service. This is about the survival of your company." No one spoke. The only sound was the relentless ping of live-stream notifications as the truth spread across the world. The CEO's face was ashen, his suit suddenly looking 2 sizes too large under the weight of what he had just witnessed. With 90,000 people watching, there was no room left for denial or delay. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out. Full compliance. Effective immediately, the officers moved swiftly. Marcus Webb was pulled forward, his wrists bound in steel, the clink of handcuffs echoing across marble like the tolling of a bell. Cameras zoomed in, catching the moment the manager who had raised his hand in arrogance was led away in disgrace. Customers gasped, some applauded. Online, comments screamed, "Justice, live, accountability in real time." Karen Phillips. "Rachel Morrison," the CEO's assistant announced, voice trembling but clear. "You're dismissed. Permanently." Their protests died in their throats when they looked up and saw every phone trained on them. Their careers ended not with whispers behind boardroom doors, but with the unblinking eye of the public recording every second. Then Dorothy turned, facing Zoe's shaking phone as though addressing the world directly. Her lip was still swollen, her cardigan still marked from the scuffle, yet her voice carried with timeless strength. Respect isn't conditional. Every customer deserves dignity. Every human being deserves decency. Remember that. She tucked her leather portfolio beneath her arm, gathered her belongings with the same quiet composure she'd carried throughout, and walked toward the glass doors. Behind her, chaos consumed the store. Ahead of her, the city buzzed, unaware it was about to change. By nightfall, headlines blazed worldwide. Investors slapped, Fire's entire management team live, and in the weeks that followed, retailers everywhere scrambled to implement sweeping reforms, codified under one name whispered with reverence across boardrooms and classrooms alike, the Washington Protocol.